the things when I started working on secondary that motivated me was that I was, I knew that I had tried doing a number of these things in these earlier works with the super graphics and the athletic movement vocabulary and the replay and some of the kind of camera work that you tend to see in broadcast sports. But I was also 24 years old, and I had a handy cam, and I did my best. So I wanted to kind of come back to some of that vocabulary and do it with what I learned, and part of that is the graphics and that developed through the Cremaster cycle, for example. Some of that 3D digital graphics and yeah, that was one of the things that motivated me with secondary, was to kind of bring that language up to date in terms of my development.
Yeah, you have that two-dimensional plane, and two, of course, now we're talking about the state of the body, so maybe to just talk about that. So art history is littered with a millennia of thinking about bodies, sculptural, drawn, and I remember seeing your work and thinking so powerfully how the history of sculpture is mostly a static body, a closed body, and that was, I think, one of the biggest contributions of your work, is to just explode that idea into to the body and its permeability, which you seem to express also in the flexibility and of other materials around it, the prosthetics, the sports metaphors where you have layers of body, and of course the permeability through the orifices of the body. And I guess you're thinking of it entirely intuitively. I mean, I'm sort of putting this whole layer of the history of sculpture and drawing, but that comes to you right away, that there's an inside and outside permeability, and that's different. That's very different from the sports thing. And obviously people talk about your work and you talk about a critique of masculinity, but I look at it and it's the blurry lines. It's like, I think that even Jim Otto's black and white, white and black, black and white, and you have poles, but then they seem to merge. And it's a very strange quality about what the body is and all of its permutations. I don't know how much of that is conscious in your early work, or is just you're pouring it all out there because it's so intuitive.
I think the thing that I was trying to capture was the internal space, like the psychological game or narrative that takes place within, in my experience, within an athletic practice, and particularly in training, and so I think that was the kind of germ of what became more narrative. And I don't know if this is going to be an answer to your question at all, but I think while I was making this work, I was also thinking about all of the horror films that I loved, and that sort of cinematic space where inside and outside both, that a story can pass fluidly between being inside something and outside something, and so I knew that was something I eventually wanted to try to take on in a more cinematic way, and eventually got around to that. But